Hey there everybody, welcome to Auto Bears, and this handsome beast is the Toyota CHR. In 2017, Toyota first released the CHR, and it was a breath of fresh air for the Japanese brand, which at the time was just ultra sensible. I mean, we had the Yaris, the Auris, the Avensis, and the RAV4. The only oddball of the lineup was the GT86, but you wouldn't really say that was like a really stylish coupe. It was just a very fun coupe to drive. And when the CHR came out, it just revolutionized people's thoughts about the Japanese brand, and as a result, it's been a huge success. Now in 2020, the CHR has had a little bit of a midlife facelift. We got a tweak front and rear bumpers along with the headlights and taillights, as well as a little tweak to the interior. And I've had this tweaked CHR for a week, and well, I'm going to let you know if it's any good or not. Style-wise, well, come on. You've got to admit that Toyota have been incredibly bold with the CHR's design. I've not seen anything like this from Toyota since probably the Mark IV Supra. I love the gigantic headlights and how they swoop around the side of the bonnet, and how the rear just kind of tapers off with that double spoiler. I mean, it does look like a raised coupe. Heck, CHR actually means coupe high rise. So Toyota were fully aware of what they were creating with the CHR. Now, it's not all form over function in terms of its design. I mean, there's lots of little bumps you'll see around the CHR, and they're actually designed to direct air around the CHR in a very aerodynamic way. So although this looks immensely cool, granted it's not to everyone's taste, the design, but it is actually very aerodynamic, and with this being a hybrid, of course it does stand to one of the priorities you see from Toyota nowadays. But I just think that this is definitely one of the best looking cars out there, period. I mean, I think it looks better than the Mark I Nissan Juke when they were both out around the same time, and I'll go as far as to say I actually think this looks better than the revised or new Nissan Juke that's recently been released. But if you don't agree with me, of course, let me know in the comment section below. But you know what, I think that's enough of looking at the gorgeous CHR, and I've got the orange edition with the orange paintwork and contrasting black roof. I think it's now time we have a look at the inside. Sat in the front of the CHR, you are greeted by a very comfortable and yet very funky interior. It's a very cool place to be indeed. Now firstly, because this is a crossover, it means that getting in and out of the CHR is nice and easy because of that raised ride height. So if you have got any mobility issues, then this might be the crossover to consider. But I will note that if you are a tall individual, you might find every so often you bump your head on the door frame getting in and out of the CHR because of that coupe design. So that's just something to be aware of. But once you're sat in the driver's seat, you find that the seats themselves are very comfortable, and they do hold a big bear like me in place, and there is plenty of adjustment. On this orange edition, they are electrically adjustable, but not the front passenger, which has got only a manual adjustment. And then the steering wheel has both rake and reach adjustment as well, so getting the perfect driving position is easy. However, you do get more of an emphasis towards this being an SUV than you do having a coupe feel to it, because you do sit quite high up in the driver's seat. Now if you are a tall person, as I said, there is plenty of adjustment, so you won't find yourself bumping your head against the ceiling. Now when it comes to interior quality, this is another nice feature in the CHR. We've actually got a lovely soft plastic or leatherette design here on top of the dash. We've got some faux stitching on there as well to give it a more premium feel. And we have got soft touch plastics here on the centre part of the dash and on top of the doors. Also on the doors we have got some hard plastic, but they've got this kind of rubber coating on them, so it does feel of a premium material. And then of course lower down it is hard and scratchy, but then again you tend to get that in this segment of SUV crossover. Now we have got some piano black here on the centre console, and it does give a nice lifting premium effect to the CHR, but of course it is going to be prone to scratches and fingerprints and smudges, etc. So again, something to be aware of. Now cubby spaces are not too bad, it's a little bit hit and miss. The door pockets are of an okay size, you can get up to a medium-sized bottle of drink in there, but they're not lined with any fabric, so loose items will rattle around a bit. And then in front of the gear lever we have got a cup holder for the driver, and there is a little shelf which you think you'd put your mobile phone there, but it's actually not big enough to house your phone, which is a shame because there is a USB input right next to it. So that's definitely something to look at for the next generation of CHR. And then behind the gear lever we have got another cup holder, and what I love about this one is you do get like a little shelving bit, which if you have it one way it's for short sized drinks, if you have it for the other way it's for medium sized drinks, and you can take it out altogether for kind of long or tall drinks. Now that is a really novel feature, but I will mention if you put like a bottle of Coke or something in there, it doesn't actually sit in place, it does wobble around a little bit. And then behind the cup holder we have got the centre armrest, which is of a decent size, and there is a 12-volt socket in there as well. And then we have the glove box, which you have to kind of look around for the button. There it is. And that is of an okay size. Again, it's not lined with any fabric, but what I do like is that the book pack from Toyota is actually not too thick, so it does mean you can use more of the space in there. So that is a blessing. But all in all, when it comes to cubby spaces, as I said, it's a little bit hit and miss. But I do love the interior design on this CHR. Two words come to mind when I see it, and it's curvy and also diamonds. That's the other kind of word that stands out, because there are these little diamond patterns here on the center console, on the steering wheels as well, and also here on the door, and also actually on the headlining you got these little diamonds as well. And I love the fact there's a cutout so you can put your fingers in there in order to get the sun visor down, which I really like. It's not all perfect though. There are a couple of things that do show that the CHR is a little bit dated. Firstly, we've got the dials, which are old-fashioned conventional analog dials with a tiny little TFT screen in between. I'd love to see something like what we have on the Toyota Corolla, where you've got a much larger TFT screen, and that's flanked by a couple of smaller analog dials, but it just feels a lot more modern and high-tech. And then we have got the interior lights here, and again we've got this kind of diamond pattern on here as well, so you are drawn to them. It's just a shame that we've got these conventional yellow light bulbs and not modern LEDs. That again is something that I'd love to see on the next generation of CHR. But we have got some nice positives in here, and that is that the infotainment system is set nice and high, and we have got physical shortcut buttons here on the outer edge. It is pretty easy to use and navigate through the menus whilst you're driving. The icons aren't too small for the most part. You've got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay as well. The only thing is that the graphics aren't quite as sharp as something you get in, say, a Skoda Kamiq or a Volkswagen T-Roc. So that's just something to be aware of. But other than that, it's just a very unique place to be. You get the feeling that this is a very bespoke interior. And I do love the fact that Toyota have gone really bold with this CHR. But you know what? I think that's enough of looking at the front of the CHR. Let's see what it's like in the back. Sat in the back of the CHR, it is a little bit of a mixed bag back here. Now firstly, I will mention that the door handles are at the tops of the doors on the outside, and although they kind of look a little bit flimsy, they're actually really sturdy, and it's a wonderful design feature and definitely adds to that coupe design. But once you're sat in here, yeah, as I said, it is a bit of a mixed bag. Now firstly, that driver's seat is set to my driving position. I'm 5'7" tall and 5'7" wide, and as you can see, I've got a good amount of knee room, and headroom is not too bad either. But I would say if you're over 6 foot tall, you're definitely going to feel very claustrophobic back here. I definitely recommend 2 adults sat in the back of the CHR, but you could get 3 kids back here at a push. Cubby spaces aren't too bad either. We haven't actually got some door pockets, we've just got door cup holders, but you can get a medium-sized bottle of drink in there, and we have got the aeroplane style pockets on the backs of the front seats. Unfortunately, that's it. We've got no air vents or USB inputs on the back of the centre armrest here for the front, and we haven't actually got a centre armrest here to pull down with any additional cup holders. So that is a little bit disappointing on this car, which costs over 30 grand. Now we have got ISOFIX supports on the outer seats, but they are plastic caps which you could easily break and lose. So I would recommend just putting them in the cup holder there if you are affixing a child's seat. But you do get that kind of coupe feeling sat here in the back of the CHR. The windows themselves, as you can see, are not the biggest, but the one blessing is that they do open all the way down, so that is something. But yeah, if you have got some children in here or some adults that are taller than me, they might find themselves feeling a little bit dark, gloomy and claustrophobic back here. But that's because of that coupe design to the CHR. But all in all, it's just not too bad for somebody of myself, and yeah, I'd be absolutely fine back here. Now, something I will add is that we haven't got any grab handles at all, and again, just like the front, the interior lights are of the yellow bulb variety and not LEDs, so that is a little bit disappointing. But you know what, I think that's enough of being sat here in the back of the CHR. Let's have a little look at the boot. Opening the boot on the CHR presents you with 377 litres of space, which is actually quite far off the class best. But it is a nice wide opening, and you could easily get a couple of weekend bags in there as well as a week's shopping. So it is of a very useful size and diameter. What I like as well is that there's very little in the way of a load lip, and you have got these diamond effects here on the scuff plate, so that is something. You also get them on the kick plates as well on the front and rear doors, so it is showing that design effect going throughout the CHR's design. But what I like as well is that you have got some very sturdy tethering hooks and a couple of shopping hooks as well, and we have got the JBL stereo on this orange edition, and it does sound really lovely. But if you look under the boot floor, you do actually get a bit of additional storage space, and you can hide some bits away back here, so that is something. You also got things like your tyre puncture repair kit as well as your locking wheel nut. So, you know, it is actually quite a useful boot, but in terms of overall capacity, yeah, it's just nowhere near as capacious as some of the class best. Also, there's nowhere for you to take away the parcel shelf, but what is quite nice is when you do get the seats down, you almost get a completely flat load area, so that is something. But just be aware, because you've got that sloping rear end, it does mean any kind of large bulky items, it might be a little bit difficult to load in the CHR. It is of an okay size, it's just nowhere near the class best. Again, showing that form over function with the CHR's design. But you know what, I think that's enough of looking at the practicality side of the CHR. Let's take it for a drive. So once you get driving in the CHR, first impressions are really good. It's a very comfortable and easy car to drive. Now, with this being a hybrid, as you set off, you're either going to get a combination of complete silence because it's going to go on just battery power alone, or you're going to hear a little bit of the engine just rumbling in the background as that's helping you get going as well, particularly on a cold morning. Now, visibility is of course a little bit hit and miss because of that coupe design, but looking out the front of the car is absolutely fine because of that raised seating position. The A-pillars are a little bit thick, but nothing more so than you would get in the rest of this segment. Now, however, looking over your shoulder, oh boy, you've got a huge C-pillar because of that sloping roofline, and rear visibility, of course, as you can imagine, is quite tight as well. But when you're driving along, it's absolutely fine, and on this orange edition, we have got blind spot monitoring, and we've also got a reversing camera, so parking is made much easier. We've also got all-round sensors and self-parking as standard on this top of the range orange edition. Another thing I like as well is the shape of the wing mirrors. They actually look quite funky, and they do actually help in terms of visibility all round. So yeah, it's not as good as some of its rivals, but it's absolutely fine for everyday driving. You shouldn't have any real major issues. But yeah, first impressions on this CHR are really good and really lovely. Trim levels in the CHR range, well, there are 5 to choose from. The entry level icon, the design, the Excel, the dynamic, and this top of the range orange edition. Now, if it was my own money, I would just go straight for this orange edition. I love the paint job, the look of the car, and all the tech it comes with. However, from a automotive journalist side of it, I would probably say the design and the Excel are probably the 2 trim levels to go for, because you pretty much get everything you need in terms of standard spec. But of course, you can spend a little bit of extra money and get yourself up to the dynamic and the orange edition. You'll definitely have cars that stand out visually, as well as having all the kits you pretty much need. But don't forget as well that the CHR is quite expensive compared to a lot of its rivals, but it is a hybrid, and most of its rivals are either petrol powered or they have got hybrids coming in the near future. But all in all, yeah, I would say something like the Excel and the design are probably the two trim levels to have a look at first. Engine choices in the CHR range, well, you got two to choose from. Both of them are petrol hybrids. You got an entry level 1.8 and a top of the range 2 litre, which is what I've got here. They both are mated to CVT gearboxes, and the CHR is front wheel drive only. And my pick of the engine choices, definitely with driving this 2 litre, would be this 2 litre. It just suits the CHR really well. Now, if you want to know my thoughts on the 1.8, click up in the top right hand corner, because I did have that engine in the Toyota Corolla GR Sport, so you can happily watch my review of that hatchback and see what I think of the engine. I didn't remember achieving 64.4 miles per gallon on the motorway. But this 2 litre, as I said, it suits this CHR really well. It's nice and responsive. In terms of MPG, it's not far behind the 1.8. Toyota say I should get between 49 and 54 MPG, and I do believe them. On the motorway, I actually achieved 55 MPG, and around town, I am getting between 49 and 52. So, as I said, I do believe Toyota in what they say I can achieve in the CHR. It's also quite a rapid engine as well. I mean, 0 to 60 is just over 8 seconds, although it doesn't feel that quick. It doesn't feel like a sporty car, the CHR. It just feels like a very good looking crossover with a decent amount of performance under the bonnet. But what I love as well is if you're just kind of calmly driving about, then of course it will go into battery only mode or hybrid mode, and it's just eerily quiet, and well, it's a nice place to be. It's a pleasant place to be. Now, of course, this having a CVT gearbox does mean that if I want to overtake and put my foot down, I don't know if you could hear that there. There was a little bit of engine noise coming into the cabin. Of course, you get the traditional CVT engine note coming in, but I'll be honest, Toyota have done a really good job in kind of isolating that noise away from the cabin. In fact, it's just a very refined place to be here in the CHR. You expect with those looks for it to be quite hard and quite sporty in its setup, but it's not. It's very much the opposite. It's very floaty, it's very comfortable, and just does a brilliant job of being a really relaxing cruiser. And I really do like that about it. It does have a character at the same time. But with the engines, I mean, it's absolutely lovely. I'm just going to go through the trip computer now. Let's have a little look. So on the journey, which I've been driving for about half an hour, 56% of the time I've actually been driving in electric mode. That's pretty bloody good, I gotta be honest. And if I go around, let's have a little look at my MPG. I'm currently averaging around 45 MPG, but I have been on a couple of B roads, so I think I can be forgiven. But yeah, out of the engines, this 2 litre is absolutely lovely. So what's the ride and handling like in the CHR? Well, as I mentioned, this is a very comfortable cruiser and it's a lovely place to be. You kind of look at the CHR and think it's going to be quite firm and sporty, but it's actually the opposite. It's very comfortable and very easy to drive. Now, if you are after a sporty car, then I would probably recommend something like the Seat Ateca, because that does ride much firmer than the CHR and the steering is more direct. But when it comes to longer journeys, I mean, it deals with the bumps and imperfections really well. Yes, on some kind of poor road surfaces at slow speed, you can get kind of wobbled around in the cabin a little bit, but it soon settles down once you're up to speed. It's just a lovely place to be, and it's one of the things that Toyota seem to be doing really well at the moment, and that is the ride quality in their cars. After driving the Toyota Corolla, I was gobsmacked at how well that hatchback rode. In fact, it was better than the new Volkswagen Golf. That's how much I really liked it. And then refinement levels as well here in the CHR are pretty good all round. As I mentioned, if you put your foot down, yes, there is a bit of engine note coming into the cabin, but it's well isolated away from, you know, the interior of the car. Yes, you can hear it, but it's not half as drony as Toyotas of old. There is a little bit of wind noise, and I don't think it's coming from the wing mirrors. I actually think it's coming from the top of the A-pillar, but unless you've got all the sound off, or you're just relying, you know, on conversations with your passengers, you're not really going to hear it. And then the other thing that you do hear is a little bit of tyre roar coming into the cabin, but again, for the most part, it's really well isolated away from the cabin and the driving experience. I am hugely impressed by how this Toyota CHR drives, but it's just a really lovely place to be. And then there's the handling. The steering is nice and light. I won't say it's got the most amount of feel to it. Again, it just adds to that ease of driving. But if you do kind of chuck it into a couple of corners, it does feel like it's going to hold on, and there is a little bit of lean there as well. So again, just letting you know, it's not that sporty car like a Seat Ateca. But again, for everyday driving, it's absolutely brilliant. Really easy to park. Granted, if you've got a reversing camera, it does help. But yeah, all round, it's just, the driving experience is just absolutely lovely. I really am impressed by it. So with my time in the CHR, have I come across any little niggles and annoyances that I need to let you know about? Well, the truth is, not really, not above anything else I've already mentioned. I mean, firstly, the driving seat position. I mean, it's absolutely fine. I've got a wonderful driving position, but I would love to be able to go about 1, maybe 2 inches lower down if you really want that kind of sporty coupe feeling. But you know what? I'm absolutely fine with it, and I have got a lovely commanding view of the road ahead. But the only other things I would mention is in regards to the dials. I would love them to be digital, or at least the same as what we got in the Toyota Corolla. The lights on the interior, I'd like them to be uprated to LEDs, and also the little shelving area to put your phone. I just like to see Toyota just make it a bit bigger so you can put the latest generation of smartphones in there. Otherwise, I end up putting my phone in the cup holder and using the rear cup holder for any beverages. So if my passenger wants to have a drink, well, they've got to hold on to it. And that's pretty much it. I mean, when you're looking at the CHR, you're going to be fully aware of the compromises you're going to have to make for this car, in the fact of rear passenger space and boot space are nowhere near the class best. In that regard, it is very much form over function. But all in all, yeah, I've already mentioned everything about the CHR I'd like to see changed, and there's nothing really much to add. So what are my thoughts on the Toyota CHR Orange Edition? Well, I really like it. It's a really bold design and a daring design from the Japanese brand, and I'm really glad they went ahead and made it. And just in terms of the overall driving experience, it's a lovely car to be in. It's very comfortable, easy to drive, and you can easily get 50 mpg out of it. I mean, what's not to like? Okay, granted, boot space and rear passenger space, but if you're looking to buy this type of car, you're aiming to make those kind of compromises. Now, yes, the CHR is more expensive than a lot of its rivals, and yet most of its rivals haven't yet come up with hybrid variants as of yet. I think only the Kona hybrid is available as of yet, and there are cars like the Ford Puma, but they're mild hybrids at the moment. I think there might be a plug-in hybrid coming at some point. But if you want arguably one of the best looking cars under 40 grand, you can't really go wrong. This is a really striking car to look at, and it's a lovely car to drive in. Now, yes, I hope that the next generation of CHR, when that comes out in a couple of years' time, they have worked on the boot space and rear passenger space, but we'll have to wait and see. But all round, if you want a very striking car to look at, that is very comfortable and frugal, then you can't go wrong with the CHR. Not only that, you've also got a 5-year warranty. So apart from Kia and MG, it's one of the class bests. So everyone, I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Toyota CHR Orange Edition. As always, please don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notifications icon to let you know when I, Dave the Auto Bear, bring out a new video. If you've got any questions about the CHR and my time with it, please put them down in the comments section below. Are you a CHR owner and have I missed anything? Of course, please let me know. I am on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and always advise you follow me on there as well for additional content, including live videos and still images. But guys, yes, I've really enjoyed this CHR. It's a lovely car to be in, and it looks brilliant as well. And I really do hope you've enjoyed this video. So guys, have yourselves a wonderful day. Don't forget to wear a mask, maintain your social distancing and stay safe. And I'll catch you all in the next video. So take care and bye-bye.